go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Weird Science Absolute DC Comics Show. I believe it's episode 29. I rarely say that, but I'm here with Gray as always. What up, Gray?
What up, Jim? How you
What
doing? Are you
up?
good? Are you Genki?
Oh, you don't sound Genki at all. I was going to ask you, were you out drinking last night? Is that what happened?
It was the beer festival, Jim.
Yeah, I can tell. There's a huge difference between, you know, chipper, just getting up Gray, who's ready for the day, and the hungover Gray, who drank too much the night before. And I think that's the one we get, but I might like that one better. I like the little bit of an edge to the Gray that I like. So here we are, and I'm not Genki. I feel like crap. It's burning hot in this room. My toe is still broken, still taped to my other toe. I wrenched my back. I don't know. I'm questioning life and love and everything in between. I am falling apart at the seams. One of my favorite Cinderella songs that nobody probably knows. But here we are. We have the Absolute books this week, or should I say book, Gray? Because we're going to talk Absolute Wonder Woman number 9. It is As My Mother Made Me part 2 of 5. And lo and behold, if people are playing at home, there was another book that was released. It was Absolute Martian Manhunter, and we got a lot of crap.
Book, isn't it?
We got a lot of crap. I'm not even going to mention it. I mean, I mentioned it, but the idea where people are giving us so much crap about it, that's what you get there, people. You don't like it, you don't get it, is what happens. What if you do want to listen to it, you can go, like Brandon in the chat, you can go over to our Patreon, because it was part of our Patreon Spotlight. A spotlight that comes out every Thursday night, or every Thursday or Friday night. Now scheduling is a little different, but it is a exclusive show that we talk about 2 books from that week's books. And I ended up deciding, I called an audible at the line. That's something you don't understand because it's American football. But I ended up deciding at the last second that we were going to do Absolute Martian Manhunter, not only because people were giving us crap here, but also because we were originally supposed to do the Timeline book, you know, the DC Universe Timeline book by Mark Waid. I don't know how you review that. I mean, you could review it, written review would probably be easy. You just say, it's like an encyclopedia. It's pretty cool. Looks pretty good. But to actually talk about it on a podcast, I felt that you really have to, you know, buckle up and strap in, strap on, and get into the idea of what's different.
Your favorite moment.
Exactly. So, and I think there's a song about that. So when you go into that book, I think it needed a little more care. I think it needed a little more of maybe a video type thing, or maybe something of, well, here is what the original Timeline had. And that's the thing. A lot of the stuff in that book, there's going to be like 6 different versions of the thing, but this is now the definitive version. And the funny thing, when I saw people talking about it, even when me and Simon were talking about it on the Spotlight, was the idea that people were pointing out things that were wrong. They were saying, well, they must have met, but that's the thing. Whatever's in this book, I think Simon said it on the Spotlight, whatever is in that book is right. I mean, that's the right version. Even if you think it's wrong, that's now the right. It's just a weird thing. And again, it would have been like reviewing an encyclopedia. Or even like, I love the DC Who's Who, where you go through and you see all the cool pictures. But how would you review that? Really, you just end up in like, and then they say this, and then they say that.
Jim, do you remember when the Marvel one came out?
Yeah.
Mark Waid did that a few years ago with,
you were reading that, right?
I did like not even a review. I just read the first half of it, like it was like a video, presentation, because you can't review it. Just like basically read it out. It was really fun.
Yeah, and that's again.
How do you review a book like that?
The only thing for this DC one, I think you can say, is have a video of, here are the changes. Here's the new timeline. It used to be this, if you're aware of that, but now it's that. And it just ended up where I think I needed more time. Usually when we do these things, I read right before we go into it. We have our discussion. I like to do that because while we're talking about it, well, first off, it'll never sound rehearsed because we're dummies. But I like actually when you're reviewing something and then you bring something up and it makes me like, oh my God, I didn't think of that. And then you start talking about it and things like that. I enjoy that. Maybe we will do that for this book, the Wonder Woman, but we will say, I'll talk for you, Gray, not in Japanese because I don't know that, but in fact, we don't love this issue. We thought it was a little bit down, but still, we'll go through it and talk about it. And in the chat, because while we do this, we end up doing it live on Friday nights at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Brandon said, I need a who's who for Martian Manhunter. I know 3 characters, and one of them is the smoke. That is true. I should do a parody song for that with smoke gets in your eyes, but it's like the smoke makes everybody die. Maybe that would be a good one. I could do that. Hey, everybody. But here we go. We're going to get into
the characters in Martian Manhunter. I just know nothing about them. And it's like, was it 4 issues now? And I just know nothing. They're so lifeless.
Again, if people don't end up hearing our review on the Patreon, I loved it. I thought it was the greatest thing ever. It is awesome. It is the greatest thing.
Sarcasm.
I did not say that, but Simon, who I talked with, because it was a last-second deal, so you didn't talk with me. It was Simon. Simon does like it. Simon likes it a lot. So it was me and him talking. I was coming from the perspective of thinking it's nonsense, and Simon was saying it wasn't. Though, one thing as an aside, has nothing to do with this show, but I ended up talking the rest of the DC books for this week's podcast, and I was talking to Brad, and suddenly Brad started saying goobly gook, and I was like, what the heck? Because that's what I was saying to you when we were talking about the Flash. That's not up yet. He would have no idea. So he's like, man, this is all goobly gook. I'm like, is everybody screwing with me? I'm like, did Gray get a hold of you and say, he's like, no, why? I'm like, because I said it, and Gray was like, oh, what is that whole deal? But we're going to get into the goobly gook of this issue. He does too. That's the funny thing. I always say goobly gook. I don't know. It's probably because my mom said it originally, and she's a moron. But the idea, gobbledygook is what, as Brad said. I swear to God, I thought you guys were screwing with me. But here we are, Absolute Wonder Woman, number 9. Kelly Thompson writing, art by Hayden Sherman, colors by Jordi Belair, letterer by Becca Carey, Ash Padilla, assistant editor, and Chris Conroy and Andrea Shea as editors. And I will say one thing as we start. The cover's awesome. And I guess since he came back, I think Hayden Sherman's up the ante. I think that fill-in artist kind of got to him, and I think the art, except maybe Diana's eyes, but I get why he's going for it. But some of the art in this, especially the second half, when you go into this maze, I think it's pretty good. This might
be the best issue art-wise so far, and the colors, Jim. Jordi Belair's colors, like you say, when they get into the maze, the labyrinth.
Oh, they're awesome at that point, and the cover is really, really cool. And again, this book has had a lot of, hey, everybody, you remember Etta Candy? Well, here she is. Hey, Barbara Minerva, here she is. And you continue that in this book with a mention of an Amazon, but also somebody that we get in the maze that was a big player in the Greg Rucka run and a character that I really, really enjoyed that we'll get to once we get to it. But we'll jump in. Brandon said, this art is good, but his best. I'm so sorry, Hayden, but bring the old artist back. I like that it's the old artist. The guy was on 2 issues. And everybody thinks that guy's like the main deal. But again, I won't say that this wouldn't have looked incredible with that other artist in the maze, because that might have really, really looked good as well. But we start off, and you're in Gateway City now. Kind of an odd play. Usually in my mind, if you start out something and just say Gateway City, you're going to assume that we start out in the now. Usually you have to spell out that you're in the past if you're in the past, but it says now, and you end up having all these spiders, and they are clicking and a-clacking, but they're also giving off that Tetracide scream. I think that's a weird play. I think it's a bit of a misplay. Like, the Tetracide, I'd never thought was great. And when we got done, I think the book has picked up immensely since then to kind of double back to say, oh, you ended up having them grab this scream, using it. Dr. Poison was being forced to do this, forced to create these spiders. And you have Wonder Woman saying, first things first, Doctor, turn off your monstrous Tetra spiders, which she doesn't really do. She ends up bringing them to Diana, but there's a lot of things, and there's a weird play in this book that it seems like there's a bunch of disconnect maybe in the first part between maybe the art and the story, but also a disconnect with me and how we're getting to places. we talked about it when we started, right? The idea that you thought you had to go back and reread the last issue because it felt like you missed something, right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm actually doing that now, Jim. I'm just having a quick leaf through the previous issue because I was like, where are we? And why are we in Gateway City? I thought we were, were we in hell? Oh, a minute, that was a few issues ago.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
And
lost.
again, things are that's the problem though. If you do have that problem when you start out a new issue and you're like, where were we? Means the last one didn't hit that well. And so when we start, I did remember Dr. Poison, but I didn't
Oh, yeah,
remember
me
exactly
too.
went on. And so when you get this, she says, bring me in. You have Dr. Poison. The controls are inside. And you end up where Diana keeps saying, like, listen, you don't mess with me. We're going to go in there, but you don't mess with me. I'm going to save the city. This is what I do. And don't think that you're anything special. I will throw you off this building. And she's like, understood. So then we get in there. She throws her in. She just goes boom and lands her in. Now, she is in a containment suit that then Diana starts asking about the poison. You're kind of playing with fire here with the idea if that containment suit opens up, I'm sure that it kills Dr. Poison, but maybe not. It probably kills everybody around. So really, Dr. Poison's big attack would be, I'm going to strip, and it might do some damage. But you do have you do have the spiders then coming. Now, Dr. Poison seems to, really.
I'll kill
I'm gonna
everybody,
strip,
by killing me.
exactly.
Yeah.
So she says, I'm doing this, but I didn't want you to hit me because there's toxic gas in the suit, all this. But in the meantime, again, Diana says, stop the spiders. She calls the spiders in, and now Diana's like stomping on them. But it might be that Dr. Poison's like, okay, I'll bring them in. Diana won't be able to stop them, but she does. And then later she just starts making a portal to hell for them, which is kind of crazy. I'm sure if they go right to Cersei, she's like, why do I want these things? But in the meantime, Diana realizes, wait a minute, why do you have a containment suit with, oh no, you are the poison? And she's like, well, and then Diana goes, did your government do this to you, doctor? And she's like, well, not exactly. So we'll have to see what happens. Usually it is, something that went awry and then she needs that containment suit, but it's probably something that also they have to keep helping her to contain it. But again, she ends up where the dialogue is very clunky in this first half. It's very much, and I ended up talking with Wes about this. He thought that she was talking weird. I think they're playing the idea of almost like, hey, she's like, sometimes you'll have the Amazons, they kind of talk Barda. They'll kind of talk in that way because they just came to man's world. So I kind of got it that way, but still, some of the things are just like, where did you get the recording of the Tetracide song? And then Poison goes, man, you're more pissed off at me than when you were fighting that damn thing. And she's like, well, the monster is a monster. Let's do what monster things. You guys are doing the bad. I'm like, things are dragging in this first half, right?
It took a long time for me to read this issue, to be fair. Yeah, it's very text heavy. It's very, as you say, I don't know. I kind of like Diana's speech style, Jim, but yeah, she is kind of like maybe going a bit over the top, Kelly Thompson, with it, to say she is different.
And it's that,
grew up in hell.
And it's like Kelly Thompson, she likes to get talky at points. At points, I've been told that she is a protege deal from Bendis, so it kind of makes sense. But when
Is he still coming, Jim?
He might be. He's a long deal. He's bringing a big load. So you end up where all of this going on, sometimes she does get talky with this back and forth, and it is like the sing-song type deal, but in this it doesn't work. I don't
Especially
think
when you go to the is it the Hieron or the Hero?
When we go there, because
like magical house, God, it gets really talky.
It gets really talky, and really, when we get to that, I'll tell you why I think that kind of falls flat. But while this is all going on, Poison's there, and Diana's being respectful enough to her, and I think that might impress her, but she ends up saying, I'm gonna get this done, I'll still throw you out the window, all that, and you see how big she is to her. But you end up, then she says, and I swear to God, I guess it might have been the last deal, because I went, hey, tell me about that Amazon you know about. And I was like, well, what did you say? And so she's like, oh, well, we'll trade. You don't hurt me and I'll tell you. And then Dinah goes, if you hurt more people, I'll come for you, doctor. Agreed, that's fine. I work in the lowest levels. There's an ancient maze. And in this maze, there's a thing trapped inside. It looks like an Amazon. So you end up where you think it's a trap. They think it's a trap. Steve thinks, everybody thinks it's a trap. Yeah, exactly. Admiral Akbar's yelling his head off. And so in the meantime, though, that's her only clue that there might be an Amazon. And if you're going to have an Amazon, being told it's in an ancient maze, traps kind of, works. It kind of, goes well with it. But in the meantime, Diana opens up this portal and all the spiders go through to hell. And she's like, where are they going?
Cersei, you think, Diana, will you
That's
stop
what I'm
with the
saying.
spiders?
Like, I wanted to go back, and they're like, meanwhile in hell, and she's like, what the hell is going on? She's like swatting them. Everything's overtaking her. Like, this sucks. But yeah, you have that, and then Diana goes off. Then, in the Heron, now we get clunky. And I think the clunkiness, everybody watching, listening, reading this, we know Steve Trevor. We know Barbara for the most part. Etta Candy, fine. But in this book, we really don't. So when you end up going to this and it's just chit chat, that really doesn't mean much except maybe setting up a villain for later with this bust on the wall, which I don't even know we ever truly see, because she's there and they're like looking at him like, what are you talking about? But the idea, yeah.
It's miss, isn't it? Yeah, I know what you mean. They were talking about it, but I didn't spot it to start with.
No, and I'm saying, like, this is something, when you're talking about this, I need to see this awful, crazy monster thing.
There should be a close-up of it when they're talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. I'll tell you right now, it should be a spread page right off the bat and have it in the middle. Have it in the middle and have the panels around it as they're talking about it. It'd be awesome. You'd see what it is. But in the meantime,
speaking of panels, that's one thing I do like about this issue. Again, it's great colors, great art, but I think Hayden Sherman's paneling is really good in this.
Yeah, and it is, and a lot of it comes off like frescoes and things like. So it's really cool. Even when her and Steve are there, you have leave kind of panels where they're out in the jungle. It's pretty cool. But again,
it's getting fancy.
I end up reading it when we do this, a double page spread all the time, so I see what's coming up and I can kind of gear up like that way. And in this page, it'd be cool if the spread page and you had that paneling continue, but you don't. But in the meantime, Steve ends up saying, this is a trap. This maze thing has to be a trap. And Diana says, that's fine, but I'm going to go anyway. Any sort of clue, any sort of inkling that there's an Amazon, I'm going to go and make sure I can at least find her. But really, I'm going to try to rescue her. And then you really get this play that seems like it's going to be the continuing thing where Steve's worried. And Diana says, hey, Steve, look at me. I'm Wonder Woman, bitch. I can do it. And then leaves. Because she's like, everything ends up, come on now, it's a maze. And it's me. And then he's like, yeah, but this is a prison. There's no way out. Well, you know me. I'm Wonder Woman. I make doors. And I'm like,
well, Steve, this is hardly my first maze.
Yeah, like, exactly.
Oh, look at Diana.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, look at you, fancy ass with your mazes. You're like, oh, man, you're truly amazing, you bitch. And get out of here. So I don't need Steve to be the guy to be like, oh, no, you might get hurt. It's me. And oh, no, you might get lost. It's me. I'm like, all right, we get it. You're a Wonder Woman.
Hey,
yeah, exactly. He's like, I don't need the odds. But then when they go into this deal, all I can think of is that the script was written. They started doing the art and like, we need 2 more pages. We need 2 or 3 pages because this idea of, I don't know, like this is the Bendis shit. This is Kelly Thompson stuff now, but it's like, it looks sort of like a manicure, but I can't tell for that. I actually, when I started reading this, I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, what are you guys discussing? And then you get it.
Like,
but
that wasn't the question. The other one's like, what was the question? It's like, Jesus, Jim, this could go on forever.
Yeah. And it's like, well, and it's, I think and that's, again, that's the sing song. That wasn't really a question. Well, what was the question? The question was, it doesn't seem like Diana vibe to mount heads on walls. So what's the deal with this weird head mount on the wall? In all of that, Diana walks in. If I'm in this conversation, I'm like, yo, Diana, what's up with the head on the wall? Get right to it. Don't start yipping and yapping back and forth. And she's like, and then she says it in, maybe ancient Greek. I don't know, but she says it. And you end up Barbara, who is the learned one, says that translates to cannibal, man-eater. Like, you need to know what that is.
But also triple.
That's like trio, triple, man-eater. Yeah, exactly. Like, close enough. It is related to the Manticore. This one, however, has 3 heads. When slain, one head must be mounted in place of honor in the home of its killer. And already I'm starting to drift. I'm like, all right, what's this? And
It sounds like they're playing on the play of is it Cerberus? You know, the from Greek myth, the three-headed dog that guards the gates to the underworld.
Yeah, and there's a lot of stories like that with something like if you cut its head off, it comes back in threes. Then you cut it, next thing you know, it's got like 50 million heads, and says it's like a truck stop on a Wednesday night. He ends up like, and then Barbara jumps in, like an honor thing to remind you forever of the significance of death. Yeah, but also, just say yes and move on, Diana. You don't need to humor them.
Re-explaining it only over and over on this page. It's like, okay, we get it.
Exactly. Somebody comes to me who's annoying, and they're like, so, Paul McCartney wrote all of A Day in the Life? I'm like, yeah, whatever. Just move on. What John Lennon wrote yesterday? Whatever you say, pal. I'm moving on.
Please.
Actually, I wouldn't. I'd be mad. I'd be mad at the person. I'd say, get the hell out of here. But
now I know how to rile you, Jim. And now I know the secret.
Exactly. It says, yes, but also because it will reform twice more from the mounted head. Now I'm getting confused. And also I'm like, what is happening? Why are we dealing with this? Except for maybe later. But I don't need the setup for the tri-killer where we also had, oh God. So like, wait,
it's not a very subtle placement, is it? Where like you say, this could be setting up something huge in the future, but they go on and on and on about it. It's like, okay, we get it.
I get it. And it's nothing to do with now. So at one point I'm like, you're talking about this, but it looks like she's shining up that vase as if she's trying to, conjure up a genie. And then in the meantime, when she has that thing in her hand, then it looks like a puppet from how small it is. I'm like, look at you. Look at you with your puppet. And then they're like, wait, you have to kill it again. I'm like, you're killing me. Let's go. And she's not even dealing with what we think. She's not dealing with this tri-headed nonsense. She's just telling them on an aside because what she's doing is getting a ritual ready to make a door to go into the damn maze. So at one point, she should just say, why the hell are you bringing this up? Just
she should say, like, shut up, I'm trying to concentrate.
She should say, talk amongst yourself. I'm getting the hell out of here. Where they're like, are you really going to go fight, in that maze? She goes, no, I'm getting the hell away from all of you. And like, but you'll be trapped. She goes, thank God. And then goes in. But that's, again, Steve's like, oh, no, this is a prison and you'll never get out. And she goes, Steven, you know me well enough to know. Does he? Does he know her that well? But he's like, you know me well enough. I make my own doors, which is such a weird line. You know what I mean? The idea, that's like me, like you just talking with me on this podcast, and I go, Gray, you know me. I go to bathroom outside. And you'd be like, what are you talking about?
I make my own songs, and they're all dirty.
You know me, Gray. I don't even know. I fly at night. You're like, okay,
it's
what
so
a weirdo.
It's pretty cool, though. I think Kelly Thompson thinks it's cooler than it is. It's like, as she opens this really cool doorway, she's like, I make my own doors.
Yeah.
Bitch.
Exactly. Yeah, everything is thrown at Steve. Steve's like, Steve's probably like just wondering, like, how the hell would I know that you make your own doors? And he's like, I can do that too.
Punch Steve before she went through the door. Like, Steve, come here.
Yeah, really. He goes, Diana, please stop, Jacoby, because Jacoby's his man from Area 41, Jacoby. He's like, please stop. Jacoby says it's not just a maze, but a prison. So it's not like a real maze where you can find a way out. It's sealed. And then I wanted to say, you know what else is sealed? My pants. I don't know. You have to have a line like something with the idea, you know me, Steve. There's no such thing as a prison. Something about being trapped in a prison, that whole way with Rorschach or something. But in the meantime, she makes her own doors. There you go. She does.
You know me, Steve. I always find my way out.
Yeah.
I always find the exit.
She's like, Steven, you know me well enough to know. I think you're an annoying bitch. And then goes through the door, giving the 2 fingers.
And your face is too effeminate.
Yeah, and not even watching. She just throws up the fingers, goes in, and all I can think of is when we get to Ferdinand, the Minotaur, he's like, bitch, why'd you get that shit all in my mace? Like, she walks in and all the blood goes pouring in. I'm like, Jesus Christ. A lot of blood magic going on.
Jim, I think. Yeah,
and a lot of blood magic. But we go to the before in the Wild Isle, and that's where you get cute Diana. And I will tell everybody, too. We're having fun with this. I like this issue. I like this issue. But I do have a good time talking about it because there's just some weird things that happen in this that kind of make me like kind of just shake my head. She goes in that maze and shit starts to ramp up. It's a lot better, including when you go back to the Wild Olive, because I love that. And, you know, cute little Diana with her monsters. And she goes over to Cersei, who, you know, she likes to sleep in. Right? She wakes up, yo, witches. She ends up where it's like, hey, this pretty old lady kind of came to me in a dream and said that, you know, she really liked my name. She had antlers and a bloody face, and she felt dangerous, but her smile was warm. I like that. See, this, I think, plays out well with Diana being a smart little girl, and she's just kind of like, she's talking too much because Cersei's still, I think Cersei's hungover. She's like, bitch, I drank a lot of wine last night. Seriously, I can't take it. But
she likes the wine, Cersei, I'm sure.
Yeah. And so she says, like, which one? And she says, oh, she had antlers and a bloody face. Right away, Cersei knows it's Artemis. But the idea when she said I had her favorite name in all the world. And that's kind of a fun, that's a cute thing, actually, to say to Diana, because Artemis's Roman name is Diana. So it's kind of that last second. Now, again, you might say, well, you might say at this point that it's so obvious that it's Artemis already, but I thought that was nice. I actually think that the weird thing where Cersei says it's much too soon and seems upset, but we don't know, like, before that, she kind of has a little smirk. Like, I don't know that this is exactly the worst of things, but it's going too quickly, and there might be, whatever, a trial back in the day. We're seeing this back in the day stuff, but it seems like you end up where you do have Cersei go like, shit. And the Diana goes, I don't understand that word. Will you teach me? And she's like, not yet. You can't have that word yet. And it's so cute. I mean, it's just the classic, what makes this book so good with Diana and things like that, where Cersei says, I'll teach you that later. Go wash up and I'll make you something to eat. Put on your best clothes and boots and all the weapons you can reasonably carry. And Diana goes, okay, and runs. She's so happy.
Look how happy she looks.
She is
surrounded
so
by her weird,
happy.
monstrous little friends.
Yep.
It's so cool.
Oh my God, her little friends are chasing her. That crazy beholder eye that should die a vicious death because it's got to be monstrosity. But she's like, okay, and she runs off, not even thinking the idea of get all the weapons you can carry means something bad. But I think she's happy to do something with her mom. We're having a little going ons. And so then
she's happy that her mom's getting out of bed.
Yeah, really.
For the first time in ages.
She's like, you better get out of bed.
I'm hungover. Leave me alone.
I imagine that what the gods really expected was that baby in Train Spotting, the most horrific thing I've ever seen in my life. But you end up where you see Cersei actually get like kind of warmed up from Diana being so happy, but then says it's much too soon. But remember, one of the biggest things with Cersei, and obviously we know whatever does go on works out because we have Diana in the present, but it continues that whole deal that Cersei doesn't want Diana to grow up.
And I think, worried, doesn't she?
Yeah.
That last panel,
and I think it's one of those, there's these segments of as she's growing up at the age of 8, she has to do this and it's coming in, and I think that's showing you more of how much Cersei loves Diana, which we know, and it's one of my favorite things. But then we go back to the maze, Area 41 now, and
this is where the colors really kick in.
Yeah, oh yeah, it's really good.
Like black light or blue light, something, Jim. It's really
cool.
It's
really cool. Like I feel like I might be getting high, but you end up not like the Martian Manhunter high. That's a bad trip. That's a bad trip. You don't need that shit. So when you do this, it's a shame that you don't have, like, Steve just puts his foot in the door and keeps it open. Or maybe do some blood magic that keeps that damn door open, but it closes up, and then Diana uses this magic sigil to mark where she would come back to. That's where the door is. So that's pretty cool.
Sigil is it? You know, I was never sure of that word. I used to pronounce it sigil when
I
was a kid.
I said it twice in different ways just so people don't
give
a crap, right?
You just be
the sigil.
fancy.
The sigils. But yeah, she ends up where she's doing magic throughout all this. She's doing magic to tell her which way to go. She's doing
book.
So she ends up saying, that's funny now. Now that Steve isn't around, she'll admit that this probably is a trap. She's like, yeah, you know what? This probably is a trap. Dr. Poison probably has.
Yeah. Jim. Is she talking about your recording?
Maybe. I'm telling you, if somebody walked in here, they'd be dead. But that, and one of the things about it is, though, I'm glad you brought that up because I might have missed it. The idea, that seems like a Kelly Thompson joke. The idea of, man, like she was sitting around with people and like, you know what sense would you get rid of? I'd get rid of smell because y'all smell like shit, like that. And it just seems like a weird thing to throw in here about this. But she ends up running into a fight, and it's a Minotaur and some fishmen. I think that you get rid of the stupid, hey, this thing with 3 heads on the wall bit, and expand the idea that Diana's trying to figure out who's doing the right thing, who is the one that's actually fighting the good fight here, because she just kind of sees and goes, well, I'll use Nemesis to tell me, boom, the Minotaur is in the right, but I don't know how.
It's up earlier, couldn't it? In the issue, you could have got like just little glimpses of this fight going on as it's building.
I think that we could have had more of
cool.
This, and that would have shown
who's bad, who's good.
And you're right. If you had saw it at the beginning, you would have already been like, "Ooh, I wonder what's going on." Usually, a maze.
Who these crazy fishmen?
And Kelly Thompson's playing with an idea. Usually, when you get a maze, you think of Perseus, all that stuff, and you think of the Minotaur being bad. So that's the thing you have to defeat. But when she gets in this maze, she's trying to find an Amazon. But you could assume, I got to go through a Minotaur to get this. This could be, oh my God, my luck is the fishmen are here and they're attacking this Minotaur. I could slip by, but she wants to see who is in the right. And it's just very quick of, oh, the Minotaur, he's the good guy. It ends up being Ferdinand, who is a classic Wonder Woman character and is good. Also is vegetarian and a cook, which is kind of cool. But she ends up there. I will give you my axe, or maybe my whip here, my lasso. And they go, but again, they kind of take care of the fishermen pretty quick, right? I mean, it's like boom, boom, boom. And these fishermen, it's a couple things, but they're just beating the crap out of these fishermen. And maybe having sushi later. But you end up where she's like, well, what's going on? And again, she could have asked before, but she ends up where finally she understands him. And he says they have Petra, and that is a siren. And then they find her. I mean, a lot of the things
she uses her, is it a lasso, isn't it, Jim?
Yeah.
To find out, the truth or whatever. But it's not clear what happens. She uses it, and then she's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, and she said, okay, he's in the good.
What this is, but you have my axe.
Yeah.
That's so from Lord of the Rings, Gimli.
I know. So she ends up like sensing he's the one who's good fighting the bad fish guys. But again, some of the times in this, and I'll just go with what happens a lot of times with Wonder Woman, the lasso will get the truth. But everybody's truth's different. If I have a lasso and they put it on me and I say I don't like Absolute Martian Manhunter, I'm telling the truth. But Simon would like it's my truth. So if you're fighting, I kind of think that the fishmen think they're fighting the good fight as well, even if it is that they're doing it under the Queen Cleo is making them do it, but they think they're the right. And so it's kind of a weird play, but it's still, you get the siren, she's almost dead. They pick her up and he takes her. And then that's when Diana's like, hey, you've been in this maze a long time. Yes, I've always been here. I'm sorry. Well, and now we get the dialogue again of, well, don't be sorry, because if you're here all the time, you don't know that it's bad because you always have this, so this is the good, but the bad, but I'm kind of bored. And hey, look at me. And I'm like, okay, why is everything the sentence too long? But you end up where they go and she's like, well, I need to ask you then, any Amazons in here? Now, the play should have been in my mind that when he finally starts talking, I wish that Ferdinand said right away, what the hell are you doing here? You're an Amazon. So we know that he actually knows what one is. Because he goes, you know what I mean? Yeah, that'd be funny. She's like, is there an Amazon here? And he's like, yeah. Okay, lead me to her. And he walks her down this maze like all this time, 10 hours. And they get to a place. It's just a mirror that she looks in and says, it's you, bitch, you're an Amazon. But instead,
reveal.
Yeah,
Amazon is
it's
you.
Always in you. But he ends up saying, some say Clea is an Amazon, though I have seen no evidence of it other than her strength. And then I'm thinking, what other evidence is there? Like, what legit? Do you want an ID? You need the passport? Like, the idea might be that he should say, but she doesn't have the honor that an Amazon usually has. Also, the idea that the Amazons have long gone and whatever. I mean, it's cool that he knows what an Amazon is, but this Ferdinand, he's been trapped in this maze all this time. I think he's just making it up because he wants company. And also the siren that he's there, Petra, that seems to be maybe a lover. She looks like she's going to dead. He needs another lover is what it is. But he says, yeah, go here. And then the problem is, though, he goes, some say Clea is an Amazon, though I have no evidence other than her strength. Diana goes, Clea? Yeah, the monster who has taken control of the maze, the woman who wants pet. Then we're there. I mean, the whole deal is you're telling this as you just run right into her. And like, oh, yeah, there she is.
Yeah, right,
that's what I'm saying.
bang, she's there.
The thing about Ferdinand and who's good or bad, that it just happened too quickly. So even you said you were a little confused about what exactly happened because that happened. Then they're not even done a sentence. Boom, they're there. I don't even think she needed them. I think they go down like 2 hallways. And then she says, it's Queen Clea. But says, you've always been disrespectful.
Queen.
It is Queen. It's weird to say. It's a tongue twister. It is.
It is a tongue twister.
Now, in that, I'll ask you, is she floating in the air? Because where she does not make sense unless I guess. Okay, I guess what it is. Those guys, I see it now. Those guys are making because she can't touch the ground because she's a queen. But in the meantime, Gene Simmons is envious of these platform shoes she's wearing. Next thing, she's going to use her tongue and start licking and spitting fire.
Does this prove that she's not an Amazon, Jim? Because Amazons, are really tall and stunning. She's got a massive platform.
Yeah, she's doing lifts is what she's doing. But she certainly doesn't want to touch the ground. But in my mind, I'd rather touch the ground than dirty fishmen. Right? And seriously, I think the smell that Dinah was talking, it's just rotten fish of these fishmen. Because I would think that's what they smell like.
Fishmen have rights too. Jim.
Yeah, well, they do, but they also have smelly balls. That's what they have, and you don't need that. I've been to the Chinese buffet, and when they have things on the buffet that say fish balls, I avoid that. I don't know what they're doing there. So I know buffaloes don't have wings, but fish and the balls, I'm out. But you end up where she says, "You're disrespectful, Ferdinand. After I've grown weary of your screams, we'll cut it out with their tongue." She's going to cut out his tongue. So again, I don't think Clea is an Amazon. Diana goes, that is no Amazon. So the idea of this is, unfortunately, Clea didn't know ahead of time and could have maybe fooled Dinah because she kind of looks like she could play the part a bit. The lifts are a little over the top. But
yes, she looks like an Amazon. Yeah, she's weird with
she's just straight up evil.
Do you know the character from like?
No, I think it's just one of the Amazons at one point, and they're kind of changing it. But again, when I think Clea, I think of Marvel and Doctor Strange's wife. Oh, yeah. So I think, which I love. I think she's cool. She ain't no Amazon either, but she's pretty kick-ass, so I don't mind that. But in the meantime, you're next to Pit, not the pits of the fishmen, because they stink like crap. But now, in that, though, it almost feels like, maybe Hayden Sherman's like, oh, man, I didn't get to do this epic, crazy mythological fight like that other guy did. So can we do that with me? And I'll make a maze and we'll go into the pit and we'll have some fights. Because that's what it's, the pit seems to be like we're going to have pit fighting. But we already had that. So we'll see. But the second half was good. It was good. It just, we're poking fun at a lot of things. And I think the reason why for the main part is that there's a lot of clunky dialogue. And there's a lot of weird downtime where you're not dealing with much at all except just chitter chatter that doesn't seem to mean much. So that kind of tends to get us in our goofy mood. Not as goofy as going for 10 minutes. I wonder at one point, I'm like, I wonder why not as many people show up for the live chat anymore. I'm like, I think I know. I think I kind of get it with me and Gray. But yeah, with that, I'm going to look at the some of the chat. And Brandon said it's good art, but he says he wants that old artist. And Joseph Wolf said, really like Hayden's paneling. So that is true. And Mateus just next level, but Hayden is very talented. That's pretty good. And this guy Gray says, I think it looks great coloring too. And Joseph Wolf says, I thought it was just a funny conversation to watch play out while we watch a lot of the panels showing how she's doing the ritual. That's the thing. If the rituals are that boring and you're trying to have a funny conversation over it because you have to kind of then I don't know what we're going to keep doing because she does a lot of rituals. But
now you say, Jim, you told me that she's a Bendis protege. I can really see it with this issue. It's not bad. It's just, it is over talky though, in my opinion.
And legit for me, I did not think that was a funny conversation at all. I thought it was meandering and I thought it was annoying. It felt like I don't like going to parties. It felt like me at a party where there's just some idiot just asking tons of questions about nothing. And I'm getting out of here. But Brandon said Kelly is a little too into the rituals. We get it. You like witchcraft. It is true. It is true. But in the meantime, what would you give it, Gray?
This one, I'm going to go for, I did enjoy it. I'm going to go 7.5 because I love the art, love the colouring, but the story was a little bit clunky because I told you I was a bit lost at times. I had to go back and reread the previous issue to remind myself, where we were. Jim, has it been a while since the last issue?
Yeah, I
Maybe
think
that's
it's
what it
kind
is.
of normal. I
Is
think
it
it's just
just
been
just a regular
normal.
month? I
Yeah,
feel like it's
yeah,
been maybe
that's what it.
6 weeks or something.
Yeah, no, I think it's just normal. But because Martian Manhunter and Wonder Woman come out at the same time, and I don't think they both would have had like a weird delay. But I'm a 7.5. So Brandon gave it a 7.8. I mean, I'm a 7. You're a 7.5. So I'm actually a little lower than you guys. So 7.5 from you, 7 from me. Brandon gives
Brandon
it a
seems
7.8.
surprised. He's like, "Whoa, I'm higher than
Yeah,
Gray.
yeah.
No one's higher than me,
That
baby."
is
Right now.
true. Or
I
Dennis
wish.
Camp. I shouldn't.
It's
Allegedly.
the smoke, Jim. The
Yes, it
smoke
is
is
the
the
smoke. Oh, my
Martian.
goodness gracious. Again, if you wanted to hear me and Simon talk for about, I think we talk a good 30, 40 minutes on it. We end up talking about that on the Patreon, patreon.com/WeirdScience, along with a bunch of other things. And with that, we also talked DC Sonic, because we've been covering that as well. And that got picked for the Patreon Spotlight. So Brandon said Martian Manhunter gets a 1 out of 10. That's only slightly lower than me, and I hope I got it. I didn't check, but I'm sure. I think Brandon went to listen, because Brandon ended up saying yesterday on Twitter, right as I decided that we were going to do the Martian Manhunter on our Spotlight, and he said, "I can't wait for Friday for the Absolute show, so I can hear what you give Martian Manhunter." I'm like, "You're not going to have to wait that long, because we're already doing it." So. With all of that,
you surprised Simon, like, "Oh, by the way, we're doing Absolute."
Yeah, well, I did say to him, and I said, I don't know, because he even said it'd be tough to talk that history book. And then I think he had some other option, but it just didn't work. And I figured, you know what, we keep saying about Simon doing it, so it'd be kind of a funny bonus, because we are legit. I felt bad not doing the book that was picked. It just would have been weird. But yeah, the Sonic DC is one of my favorite books that's coming out, but it was a little bit down this issue as well. It was like kind of like a continuation of last issue, but not as fun. But we do have a very weekly DC Comics podcast. That is usually around, 4 hours or so is what it kind of ends up being right now. I end up talking with Gray about books. We're talking about The Flash this week. Cy Spurrier, I want to strangle him for making me do it. But we also have me and Brad, we're talking, I think me and him did Green Lantern, Green Arrow, Green Lantern Dark. We also reviewed Superman and Peacemaker, the double feature. So we do a bunch of books. And then me and Zach finish up the We Are Yesterday deal from the Justice League, and also talk about Mr. Terrific Year 1. So we have a bunch of books. And then in the meantime, me and Stork are also doing our retro review of the week that we do every week. And this week's retro review was the issue where Krypto comes back to Earth, but he's older now, and Superman shades him for being old. Seemingly wants to kill him throughout, and Jimmy Olsen's so upset. It's actually, I believe, Superman's pal Jimmy Olsen, number 29. The Silver Age book, which is always fun. It's really great. Okay. Brandon says, "Why even waste time on Flash?" I was actually buying till 2 months ago. Then I realized, what the F am I doing to myself? It's because we try to review everything, but there's some we put our foot down. There's no way I'm getting near that Harley, and I love Harley. I'm not touching that. So
we were talking about me and possibly maybe doing it just for a joke, but it's like, no,
yeah,
for a joke.
Yeah, the joke would be on us. We'd be the joke. Oh, it's so bad. It is so bad. But we end up doing a bunch of books. Again, I have to get a hold of Jared still. He tried to get a hold of me, and I couldn't get. Our things got crossed up. So hopefully we'll be doing a Wonder Woman book as well as some mail. So if you don't already subscribe to our actual podcast, you can listen to our show. It comes out every Sunday night. There is early access on our Patreon, as well as a bunch of other shows, including me and Gray on our Patreon have a Grant Morrison podcast where we just finished up Animal Man. We're going to be moving back into the Invisibles and Doom Patrol. We kind of switch back. We also have a Usagi Yojimbo podcast, but there's also a ton of other things like a Walking Dead reading club. We have a Hellboy reading club. We have a lot of things. So there's a lot to go on there, and you can check it out. Monday. Yeah, exactly. And Manga Monday with Luke Hollywood. You can end up going there, and if you haven't already, you can sign up for a 7-day free trial just to check out what is going on there and check it out. And I do believe, I'm not so sure, but I do believe that possibly we might have an annuals month in July. And when that happens, all of our shows that week are Patreon only. And I think starting with this, if there is an absolute book that week, we will have it on the Patreon as well. So that is what is going on. I see Spurrier's Flash is not a Flash story, says Gray. I don't know whether a story it is. Me and you were struggling, but we had fun. We had a lot of fun this week with all the things that we did. And Brandon said the Usagi issues are amazing, having lots of fun revisiting them. That is, I mean, that's a thing. If you don't like our scores here because we're negative or whatnot, go listen to that show because we're giving 10s out like it's Halloween and we're handing out candy. Or as you probably would do, like pennies or apples, because you're sus is what it is. But we're done. We are done. So we're going to end with 2 songs as we always do. Thanks everybody for listening. Thank you for joining me. As always, great. We'll go out with your AI and then we will go for Brandon. We will go back to Diamond Dave to get us out of here. So I just like JK says bye. I didn't even see JK was here. And then Riley says, yo, Jimbo, and we're done. Hello guys, but we're getting out of here. So with that, thanks everybody. Also, if you are interested in dirty song parodies and dirty songs, you could join me tomorrow night live stream on Sus Records. I do think maybe the thing is in the show notes, but if not, I'll put it in. But you can join me over at Sus Records, where I have the Saturday night dance party, where we play a lot of funny songs and talk about things and whatnot. And just maybe sometime I could get Gray to join me on that show as well. It'd be pretty funny. I just want your reactions to the dirty songs. It'd be great. But that's it. So we're going to get out of here. Gray is muted his mic. He's probably getting yelled at by his wife, is what I think is happening. But thanks, everybody, and we'll talk to you all later.
感動して感謝しました本当に大好きです私は普通の男ではありません私はもう本性の愛です私にからかわないでくださいそうしないとあなたは消えてしまいます私は普通の男ですでも私はあなたを殺しますだからそのまま受け取ってください足元に注意した方がいいよ準備をしてくださいフォローしないと大変なことになりますよ私に伝わらない私はあなたを殺します私は日本の愛ですあなたは警告されました
Something to be afraid of, but everyone should know what our heroes are made of. But after night terrorists and beasts will come and gone, everyone's afraid of both the brains and the brawn. It's all part of her plan. Yeah, Amanda Waller is the man. She's going for absolute power. Yeah, she wants it all. She's going for absolute power. Oh, she's heading for a fall. She's going for absolute power. Somebody stop the wow. Well, it doesn't look good on Earth or out in space. She's got a brainiac queen and a robot failsafe. Better not forget she has her suicide squad. She has brain bombs attached so they don't wander off. It's all part of her plan. She's got the Batman! She's going for absolute power! Yeah. She wants it all! She's going for absolute power! Oh, she's heading for a fall! She's going for absolute power! Somebody stop! Stop the wow! You know I ain't lying, we don't have to rumble. Get you a chocolate chip and a drink at Crumble. Help out the homies when the struggle gets real. Cause if I was dinner, I'd be a
Happy Meal!
nice guy moves, but I roll with the grit. Helping hands extended, never counterfeit. From the block to the burbs, I keep the crew tight. Ain't no shame in kindness, I shine in the night. Neighborhood therapist, fixing all the drama. Got no baby mama, calm as a Dalai Lama. Got a spine made of steel and a pen full of ink. If you'll be my princess, I'll be your lady. They say the nice guys finish last, that's a myth. The proof is in the pudding, pop, I'm here to uplift. Building bridges, not burning, stack your love, not cash. Listen to your new demo, swear it's not trash. Chain on the neck, but it ain't for the flex. Pay my bills on time, ain't bouncing no checks. Helping old ladies cross streets with a smile. Playing Mario Kart always gets me buck wild, wild, wild. Yeah, I'm nice. I'm a nice guy. I'm so nice.
Now back to the show.
Nice guy moves, but I roll with the grit. Helping hands extended, never counterfeit. From the block to the burbs, I keep the crew tight. Ain't no shame in kindness, I shine in the night. Say please when I step to the mic. Excuse me, fam, is it cool if I hype? I don't ghost. I reply with a K, text back real fast like,
How's your day?
the nice guys finish last, that's a myth. The proof is in the pudding, pop, I'm here to uplift. Building bridges, not burning, stacking love, not cash. I'll listen to your new demo, swear it's not trash. Nice guy moves, but I roll with the grit. Helping hands extended, never counterfeit.